give me a little, I don't know, sing something to the mic or whatever you would prefer to do for a mic check. Okay, one more time. Okay, a little higher pitch, a little lower pitch. The pitches weren't necessary. It was just for personal enjoyment.
Okay, yeah, all good, all good.
Oh, do you smoke it all then?
Do I smoke it all? Not anymore.
Gotcha.
I think the last time I smoked was through a cart, and my first time smoking a cart. Mm-hmm. So I should have taken that into way more precaution than anything.
Yeah, hit with the.
It was a lot. It was a lot because I think I was always used to smoking joints before, and I think the very first time I ever smoked was with Chris Thayer through a bowl. Mm-hmm. So then one time I saw someone like selling these like carts on Snapchat. It was Nick Mana, and he was like selling. I was like, oh, okay, cool. He was like selling to like some close friends and whatnot. So I was like, you know what? I'm kind of interested because I saw the different flavors. Like that sounds kind of good to get like high off of. Yeah. And there was the one that I bought off him was mochi. Yeah, right.
That sounds dangerous, bro.
Yeah, it was. So then I was just like, cool. So like, what do I do? Because I was like so like inexperienced with it. So he's like, oh yeah, you just got to go to like maybe like a smoke shop or like maybe a convenience store that maybe that has it. But you need like a little pen to like heat up the wax. And I was like, oh okay, that sounds pretty easy. So I went and bought it off him, got a pen, heat up the wax, and then I was ready to go. It was Rick and Morty themed, by the way.
Beautiful. You were truly ready to go.
Right. Mm-hmm. Which I never watched. Never watched it. But so it was I smoked that, and well, the first time I smoked it was Robert and I were planning to go watch Demon Slayer.
Cool.
The Demon Slayer
movie.
One of the
movies?
Yeah, the Mugen Train movie. And so he was like, we'll just pregame in the car. So that's what I did. I started first since he was driving. Mm-hmm. So I took a first big hit, and he knew a bit more about carts than I did. He was like, you probably don't need to take any more than like 2 hits to feel like pretty damn high. I was like, okay. So I took like one pretty decent hit, and then just did it like normal, and then I was like, waited a couple minutes, and I was like,
cue the Jimi Hendrix song.
I don't feel anything. So then I was he was like, maybe take another hit. I was like, okay. Mm-hmm. So I took another hit, probably about the same sized hit, and waited a couple more minutes, trying to let it like ease in, whatnot. Oh, no. Nothing. Mm-hmm. So I was like, the fuck? It's like, is this thing like not working? Is it like?
Oh, I forgot to tell you, it's pure CBD, man.
Oh, fuck. No. No. So then he was like, then I asked him again. I was like, should I take another hit? And he was like, if you want, or you can just like let it ride out a little bit more. Up to you. I was like, fuck it, we're gonna be watching a movie.
Go time. Yes.
So I took another hit, not as big as the first two. Mm-hmm. And then on that hit, however, I started like coughing a lot.
Oof.
So I was like, okay, that one like was a little burnt.
Oh, quick side derailment. Have you ever taken a dab before?
No.
Like the heroin equivalent to weed?
Yeah, no, I have not. But like carts are like kind of close to that, right? Because like it's a wax, right? Mm-hmm. And then you have to heat it up with like a lot of heat.
Yeah, people use fucking blowtorches.
Yeah, that's what I've seen. Mm-hmm. Like blowtorches. So I was thinking, I was like, are carts like on a very like smaller level of that?
I think so. The high is it's a form of weed for people, especially my mom listening. I'm not doing anything but weed aside from that. Weed and psychedelics, of course, but yeah, it's the most powerful form of it you'll ever get. Either that or like 1,000 milligram edible or on par. You will get, if you're new to it, the slump, the coughing to an nth degree like you've never had before, right? And the hungers. But sorry, anywho, continue your the cart story. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I started coughing a lot. He was like, okay, well, now it's probably going to hit because, like, you're coughing up the rest of, like, your regular oxygen, and now all of that is, like, going to your lungs, and you're probably going to get pretty high. So,
it's
like,
fucking weird how that works. That coughing does seem to get you more high.
Yeah, it's, like, almost like it's all, like, the, I don't know, cannabis vapors and whatnot that's, like, pushing your regular oxygen out, and then it's just I don't know how it works necessarily, But yeah, then we went to Wawa to grab food before the movie. And when I got out the car, I was just like, fuck.
Mm-hmm.
I am gone.
Mm-hmm. How are you with socializing that state? Like, are you I giggle at the cashier for like 5 minutes before?
So I had like a 10 million yard stare instead of just a regular 1,000-yard stare. I went around to grab my drinks and my food like kind of normally. I would say I like probably browsed a bit more than normal, just probably because like now I'm like, oh, I know I'm gonna get the munchies, so like I'm gonna stock up and hibernate.
Oh, that's what I was thinking, man. That's the worst, to take the hit right before you go food shopping.
Yeah. So then what happened was I grabbed a couple drinks. I grabbed I think I got like a egg bowl or something that they had at the kiosk. Some sort of thing like that. Yeah. Then I got like some sort of snack, and I was waiting in line, and the line felt forever. But I was right behind Robert, and I remember I just remember dozing, like almost dozing off, but like my eyes were like super heavy, standing in line. I was just like, And then like out of nowhere, at one point, like I think I had this like genius and like super woke idea, like that was gonna be like super revolutionary. And then I was about to tell Robert, like my eyes went from like little slits like Brock from Pokemon to like
I've seen the lights.
Wide.
Yeah.
And then I was like, dude, to Robert, like standing right in front of me. I was like, dude. And the idea escaped my mind, and I was like, then I went back into my little my little slump. I was like, oh.
So how was the movie?
Oh, terrible. No, it was a good movie. My experience was terrible because I went there. As we were watching the movie, before we even went into the theaters, I was eating my food like on the way there. I was like, I may as well eat my food now. I'm not gonna bring it in, except for like maybe my drink. So then I ate my food in the car, and then I remember like feeling like shit once we got to the theaters. I was just like, oh my god, like I don't know if it's because of like what I ate or like if I smoked too much, like maybe I'm greening out. So I think it was like a mix of both, probably more on the lines like greening out. Probably it was just like way too much. Like,
dude, that's an unspoken part of the weed experience.
Yeah, so that's why I've been scared ever since, because more often than not, every time I have smoked or gotten high, I've greened out.
Yeah. Do you like faint? Like you get that sort of lightheadedness? My stomach starts to hurt.
Yeah.
I've seen that happen with two people while smoking with them. It's the weirdest thing because you'll see them like, zoning out and then get very pale. And then you just kind of know it's going to hit them in a second. And then they'll just like faint. It's pretty fucking freaky. Usually like we've caught them consistently. And it's only happened, I think, twice out of probably the hundreds of times I've smoked with two separate people. But I think now that weed's becoming more popular, that needs to be a more talked about thing. Because a lot of people will say, like, nah, man, there's no bad side to it. You just have a good time. Maybe you're a little more hungry or tired than usual. But no, you can get that nervousness, the super anxiety, the stomach ache. Yeah.
It can definitely induce some sort of like paranoia with it, especially if you're not used to it at all. I did like research before smoking for the first time, and I was just like, how to properly smoke? What am I supposed to feel? Like, what do people think of? It's all that type of stuff.
Did it help?
A little bit, yeah. So I was like, it taught me how to smoke properly, because like my idea of smoking before was like you inhale then you exhale, but it's like inhale, but then like you kind of suck it down a little bit.
Like fill the mouth, then pull it to the lungs,
and you hold it there, and then you slowly exhale it out.
Then cough,
then die, then go watch Mugen Train. But yeah, so I throughout that entire movie, like probably 3 or 4 times I went to the bathroom to throw up. And it was not like regular type of throw. It was like kind of like projectile almost. And it was a different color too, might I add, because I had Slim Jim's brand chicharrones. So it was like spicy chicharrones. So it was red vomit. Sorry. It was red vomit, and it was like in the toilet. I was like, oh my God. am I gonna die?
Literally, that's a
am I just
reasonable
gonna-
question with red vomit.
Yeah, so I was like, is this blood? And I was like, no, that's chicharrones. I see the chunks.
Oh, thank God you were.
Yeah, so-
God forbid you took a few more hits, you couldn't even tell anymore.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. But at that point, it was like it was on the come down. Like I wasn't high anymore. I was no longer having like this like that peak experience of like just not knowing what the fuck I'm doing. But it was more so just like trying to like get it out of my system now.
No, I'm just purging.
Yeah, exactly. So then that's why I was like throwing up a lot. And Robert knew this. Robert knew that I was like in a bad state. He smoked too before we went in, but he had a good high. I had a bad high. And we had our other friend Brian at the time, some guy I met at college in one of my coding classes, and we got like close like pretty quick. And it was funny because he was kind of like the innocent, like pure one at the time too. Oh, we turned him now.
Welcome to the jungle, baby.
No, but what happened was I had gotten into the theaters. We saw him because he met us there. And what had happened was I saw Robert go in first. I had to stay in his car and like throw up a little bit more. And I just kind of sat there a couple minutes to like kind of wait it out. And then, just kind of like breathe it out and do some breathing exercises. And then I went in and I saw him. And he was like, hey, what's up, Benji? And another nickname that sorry.
I like the little eyelash flare.
Sorry. It's a nickname that like I've wanted to kind of like get people to call me ever since like
You remind me of Centauri, yeah.
yeah. So like ever since like high school, but that didn't happen because everyone was so used to call me Ben. So like when I got to Rowan and like when I went to college, I introduced myself as Benji to people. And it was like, oh, okay.
Does anyone call you Benjamin?
Benjamin? No. God, I hope not. It takes too long to say.
Fair enough.
No. So he's like, hey, what's up, Benji? And he's like all smiley, happy to see me, and I'm just like,
Is it something I did?
exactly. That's what he thought. He thought it was him, and I was like, I felt so bad, but I also didn't want to tell him that I was high because I was like, I wonder if he has this like sort of image of me right now, where it's just like, is he like just chill guy that doesn't do drugs and stuff like that? I was like, well, I've only ever smoked weed, so then
now I'm poisoned.
yeah. So we're at the concession stands trying to get like some snacks. He was getting snacks. I was just staring at the super bright screen that was like flashbanging me. And then he was like, hey, Benji, do you want anything? Like, you want popcorn? You want a drink? Like, I got you. And I was just like, no, I'm good. Like, I was like kind of one-wording him very bluntly. Like, it wasn't like it wasn't my intent to. I was just feeling like shit.
Yeah.
So then in his head, when I finally told him, and when he told his part of like his POV of it, he was like, I thought I did something wrong. I thought you hated me. Like, I thought like I was being a bad friend at one point. I was like, no, Brian, I was just high as fuck. And I was just gone. So like, it was not the best of times for me. So I had to I rewatched the movie when it came out on Crunchyroll.
Sober?
Yes, yeah. And there was a lot of scenes that I didn't remember. He was like, well, you went to the bathroom at this part. You were here for this one. I was like, I was?
You were really too high for that part, and then so on.
That's exactly what happened.
Dude, isn't that the strangest thing, interacting with a stone cold sober person? Not only stone cold sober, but habitually stone cold sober. Like, they never do anything.
Yeah, like almost like oblivious to the idea that that was like possible. Yeah, it's like he's met people that has done like bad stuff before. It's just he didn't.
Bad stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I never really liked that idea either. If you want to smoke and you want to try and get high for the first time, sure, go for it. Just make sure you're in a good environment to do so. Like, you trust the people that you're doing it with. If you are doing it with people, I would probably recommend doing that. That way they can take care of you.
Especially your first time, yeah.
Exactly. So that's why I was like, so they can take care of you. But I wouldn't put like a negative stigma behind it where it's like, it's not the worst thing that you could do. I wouldn't even say it's that bad. It's just if people want to get high, people get high. It gets like really bad maybe if they need to stay high 24/7.
Yeah, right.
To function correctly.
It
like
seems
when they
to
become
come down
dependent
to,
on it.
Yeah, right. If your relationship to it is, this is a crutch, this is a thing I need, and not only I need to stay a little high constantly, I need to be fucking shit-faced.
Exactly.
Like, there's a very easy to find dark side to the world of drugs. I was mostly just fucking with you earlier, but
Yeah.
no, that side is very real, especially seen through the eyes of just someone who doesn't dip their toes into that world. It can really become, I would imagine, overwhelming because that's such a wide world of and even calling it drugs feels weird because like there's so much of a dark connotation around drug.
Yeah.
It sounds almost like an evil word in and of itself.
So you gotta like kind of balance it out by saying, you know, it's just something recreational, something like more fun, less, you know,
less shooting up in like an apartment by yourself.
yeah. You know, where you're tying the band around your
Train
arms.
spotting. Yeah. Bro, did you ever see that movie? Train Spotting?
Train spotting? No.
You know the guy who played Obi-Wan Kenobi in the with Qui-Gon Jinn?
That one, no.
But
I don't know. I
have
don't
you
know
seen
the
it?
actor.
Yeah, it's just that actor when he's really young. It's a movie about a group of people who are heroin addicts. It's on Netflix. It's a wonderful and fucked up movie. Like I recommend it if you're into that sort of thing. Have you touched that sort of world while you were in college? Not that level, but just like the. It seems like so many people get like fucked up in college, not just a little high, a little drunk. Like no, like people passing out lawns and shit.
Yeah, no, I've definitely seen that with like frat parties. I think by the time I was already in college, I was too focused on like trying to just perform well, because I guess part of me was always like a bit studious. So I wanted to perform well in college, especially because like, oh, I'm trying to like earn my degree now. Because I mean, like high school is like a breeze.
Yeah.
Like anyone could just not try in high school and you could still pass. Like I don't know. It was just at least that's what it was for me. But for college, there was definitely dark times for me in college, especially my first year. But I never like because like of how I was feeling in college ever thought of like resulting to like drugs necessarily in that sense, like of like wanting to get high to escape the reality. There's a different part to like the dark side of that story that we can dive into like later if you want.
Yeah, fuck it. Oh, real quick, you see these little knobs up and down the the shaft of the stand? Would you mind raising it up a little bit? You're taller than I expected. And then put the mic a little closer to your face. Cool. And then just pull it so it's like a fist from your face, something like that.
Yeah.
So let's go. Official. What are your this is just something that fascinates me endlessly. What are kind of your coping mechanisms? I don't even know if that's the right word to call it. That sounds so doctor-esque. But when you're in a really tough spot, like what do you kind of do to get through it?
So I found out about lo-fi.
Oh, fuck yes.
Found out about lo-fi in college. I didn't know that it was called lo-fi. I've listened to things like that before. I just never knew the genre name. Like say like back in high school, I didn't know the genre name, so I just kind of listened to it. I was like, oh, this is chill. I just thought of chill music. And it was like, and then at one point, someone was like, oh, you ever listen to lo-fi? Do you listen to lo-fi? I was like, what's lo-fi? And I was like. Then I looked it up. I was like, oh, I've definitely heard this type of stuff before. I just didn't know it was called lo-fi. But now that there's a name to it, I like looked it up. I made like these playlists of it. So I listened to lo-fi for
the lo-fi girl?
Yeah,
fuck yeah.
Yeah, the lo-fi girl. There's like all the other. I don't know. Just Spotify has a ton of different things that people do. People do like lo-fi versions of like game like soundtracks.
That
too.
sounds cool. Oh, for like a Pokemon.
Pokemon lo-fi, Legend of Zelda lo-fi, everything.
That's some shit I gotta find actually now.
Yeah,
because I'm also a heavier lo-fi listener.
Yeah, so like something that just kind of like makes me think of like kind of like more peacefulness. Like I kind of always been more accustomed to, I guess in your words, like of coping, thinking of myself in an environment that has nothing to worry about. So like, and that for me is like just sitting around in like what is like nature. So thinking of like just sitting around in nature. So I think of listening to lo-fi and it puts me in like that place in almost in like an outer perspective looking at myself.
That's really fucking cool. That's something that's so known for overstimulating people, modern technology, that through that people now have access to one of the most zen things you could find.
Yeah, it's like it goes like kind of underappreciated sometimes. People listen to like other like a ton of different things. People will like whatever you need to do to like feel better. But for me, it's just lo-fi or like it's like in a form of meditation. Although I have tried meditation for myself as well. But yeah, it's definitely, it like kind of puts you outside of yourself, and like you just kind of feel at ease with everything.
What kind of meditation have you tried?
So I've just done like just simple like just like inhale of like 2 to 4 seconds, exhale for 4 to 6, and just counting the numbers in your head, like inhaling and you're counting that the breath in, then you exhale and you count the breath out. And I kind of have like very low, I guess it's kind of like meditating, something that induces more of like a meditation sound. So like nature sounds, or like hearing like a gong, maybe just anything that's just not over stimulating, I guess.
Have were you raised with any particular religion?
Buddhism at a younger age. Then like we kind of fell out of that practice. Like we didn't go to like temples as much. But more recently, I've been getting back in touch with like that type of stuff. Yeah.
Cool. I'll dive into that in a second if I remember. But because of Centauro, I've gone to temples probably more than I ever have before. And when I go there in churches, for Christian churches, you'll hear often singing the hymnals, the stereotypical But when you go to the Buddhist temple, they go for the longest fucking chants that I've ever heard. And if you really tune into it, you'll get into this like trance, like this meditative trance. Have you experienced those at some of the temples you've went to?
So I haven't really sat there for like the prayers or like the hymns and stuff like that. Most of like the meditation that I've sat through was just more so of like of my own. Just kind of like, because at the time that I have heard them, I was there for like a specific like festival. So they did like prayers before the festival, and I was part of a lion dancing group.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. So I was I got introduced into like lion dancing, and I was like thinking in my head like, because I was asked if I want to practice to do lion dancing, and I was like, you know, that sounds
Are you
really
saying lion or lion?
Lion dancing. And he was asking me like, do you want to practice doing this? And I was like, sure. Like I've seen it all the time as a kid, and it was always super exciting to kind of watch them like prance around and just like kind of like just shake their mouth and eyes at you. Although I don't know, it just felt like a nice like festival. So I was like thinking in my head like, I kind of want to give that back a little bit, seeing that as a kid. So then when I was part of the lion and like this whole performance, like we saw like kids there, and like I would just like kind of like, because I'm in control of the head. So like we're holding the head with one hand.
Cool.
Like I think it's this hand. Yeah, this hand. And then this hand is controlling the mouth flap, or like a string in there that you hold to pull the eyes shut and close. And so like I can only see through the mouth part. So like I'm like staring at people and like staring at like kids, and I'm just like flapping my mouth, and they're just like all giddy and happy. And then they shove money into your mouth. So
That sounds so cool.
Yeah.
And fun. Does it ever like hit you in like the eye or something?
So
Someone throws a penny.
so me, I was like, I didn't understand. Like I was like, how am I supposed to like
question.
grab the money like and still perform at the same time? Because otherwise it's just gonna
That'd be
fall
so
to the
awkward
floor.
if you just stop the performance, reach your hand in to grab the money, and like,
Yeah, so it's like they'll sometimes either just shove it into the mouth, or they'll hold it in front of the mouth and you grab it. So like now I have to hold the head, this like 10, 15 pound head, just like with one hand, just like kind of like resting on your shoulder a bit. And it's like it feels a little uneven. And then you grab the money.
Wait,
but then
through the mouth or like is
through
there
the
an
mouth. Yeah.
Cool.
So it's just a hand just coming
imagine
out the
a
mouth.
kid. What the fuck?
What is that? But yeah, you grab the money there, and then I was like, the first time I did it, I was just like, I don't know where to put the money, because I don't have like pockets necessarily right now, because like the lion dancing pants that we had, I don't think had pockets. Either that, or you don't really have time to shove it into your pockets, because it's like they keep
Go,
going,
go,
and
go.
Yeah, and like we're doing this routine, so if you fall behind in the routine, it's gonna be like, it's gonna feel a little awkward. It's gonna feel like messy. So then I just remember like this little kid, she kept like giving the money, and every time I dropped like $1 or $2, she would go to grab the money and shove it in my mouth again. I was like, this is so adorable, but like I need to perform as well. So like I'm like sidestepping around to like continue performance and stuff like that. Then like we did like a parade in like a circle, and then afterwards they collected all the money anyways. But then I was like, dang, what can I do next time to like make sure I can just like keep a hold of the money? So then someone suggested that I tuck my shirt in and then just throw the money in here. That way it doesn't fall out necessarily.
Is there not like a decided technique, or is that the technique of the veteran dancers?
Typically, before they would have a person like walk around with like a donation bucket, so that would work way better. They could just collect it that rather than shoving it into the lion's mouth. But it's like sometimes also part of the tradition that if you're giving the money to the lion, you're like now giving yourself the luck, and people want to like have that like that type of tradition and that fortune. So it's like it's fun for sure, like to just give the money to the lion and then they kind of eat it and then they bless
really
you.
Cool.
Yeah. So then there's definitely that, but then it does get hard sometimes to try to like get the money and like continue to like dance when there's everyone walking up to you and just shoving this in your face.
Maybe to have like some sort of vest inside with pockets. I don't know what kind of shirt you're wearing, but now I'm just in my problem solving phase. Like, how can we make this?
It depends on what color your lion is. Our lion was yellow. We had a second lion as well that was red. So if you had a red lion, you had to have a red shirt on. So that way you kind of blend in a bit more and have like a more uniform color. Ours was a yellow lion, so I wore a yellow button up because I don't own anything yellow. So I tucked my shirt in and just shoved money into my shirt. And I was like, you know what? That kind of worked.
There you go.
So yeah.
Where was this?
This was at a temple in Williamstown, like near here.
Cool.
Yeah, like maybe 15 minutes from my house. Yeah, it was very fun.
Yeah. Was it done for like what sort of celebration was it done for?
So we did a couple different things. We do Moon Festival, Mid-Autumn Festival. There's like a certain holiday that I don't know like the exact like translation necessarily, but it's like Buddha's day, like the day of like Buddha's, I guess, like birth or something like that.
Like Christmas equivalent for Buddhism?
Kind of, kind of like that. So then there was that, and then there was another one that's kind of like a Mother's Day, but in Buddhist tradition where like you celebrate mothers whether or not they have like passed, and there's like certain flowers that you get of certain colors. That way you can kind of like, it kind of distinguishes you from like whether you have a mother that's still alive or a mother that has passed, and it's an appreciation. So it's like a very much more like, it's supposed to still be like a joyful type of day where like you kind of just are there to give appreciation to your moms for what they have done. Either that or it's like a remembrance and you get to reminisce on it.
I like that. Even I almost like that, especially because when I think of a lot of the funeral culture I've seen before, it's often very morose, and like I can respect that, of course, the pain of losing someone you love. But in other cultures where I see it's more of a celebration in a funeral where you're celebrating life and like this is part of the cycle, this person has moved on. There's something beautiful to that too.
Yeah. It's like you kind of remember that day. Like, yes, it definitely, it's a very sad thing for sure. No matter how you celebrate it, whether you celebrate it in, like you said, like a more morose way or like in a happy celebration, it's still sad in its own sense, but you'd rather remember them in a happy way. At least for me, everyone has their own thing for sure. But if you're gonna celebrate someone's funeral, their like appreciation of like the life that they lived, then I would say it's nicer to have like a happier celebration on it, something that you can remember that by.
And it strikes me that as you're saying that, some of the most beautiful songs I've heard have been sad, and that even though they're very sad, there's somehow still a pleasant feeling that can come along with it, which is so
sure.
weird. Like you don't listen to a sad song and then just, at least for me, oftentimes you don't just get depressed, and just sit there in the pain of depression. Like it hurts with the sadness, but there's a worthwhileness to it.
Yeah. So for me, I've personally never experienced that type of like pain of like losing someone, because the people that I have lost were like very distant, like uncles or aunts that I wasn't necessarily even close to. Either that or I wasn't aware that they even passed away until years later. And then my parents were like, "Oh yeah, they're gone." I'm like, "Oh, thanks for telling me like now." I would have liked to, have been there for you to tell me the day of, maybe that
make
way
some calls or go to a funeral or something.
Right, exactly. So like to this day, I haven't been to like a funeral. Not like that's like on a bucket list or anything.
Don't worry, I'm sure it'll come eventually. Which is,
but it's like it's just something that's like I know I'm gonna have to experience one day anyways, and
unless you die first.
Exactly. So don't count us.
2022 goals. No, oh my god.
New Year, no longer.
New Year gone me. All right.
A little off track. But yeah, I haven't experienced that, so like I can't really necessarily relate through song, but I can sympathize when people have lost someone before. Like I can't imagine necessarily what it like they're going through and what they're feeling, what's the thoughts in their mind. But I can to like a certain extent of like being close to people, and I don't want to lose these people in my life. So you like I'm sure you think of all that stuff as well.
Which is that's a I don't want to. Part of me wants to say that's a fucked up part of life, and a part of me just wants to say it's a part of life, and maybe other parts of me want to say other things, but I'll sit here all night going over that list. But the fact that everyone you know dies, like every friend, every hated person, every family member, every child, like they all eventually.
Yep. That was a super scary thought that I had when I was young. I had a like terrible phobia of dying when I was younger. Like I'm talking like maybe 6, 7, 8 years old, and I had that forever.
When you say phobia, like what ways would it manifest itself?
I just thought of it in my head where it was just like one of these days I'm gonna be laying there in my deathbed, and I have all these other people that are here older than me who aren't going to be there. So all the pain that I've already felt, and now I'm inducing that pain on others by also dying. So it's just like I don't know why a 6, 7, 8-year-old is thinking about this, but I did. And it like I kept having these random thoughts. It was like anxiety. Like I had this thought just like roll through my head sometimes, and sometimes it would just get stuck, and I'm just like thinking about it over and over and over. And then I was just like, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. So then eventually years and years went by, and the thoughts kind of like more random. They weren't as frequent. But I would still have anxiety attacks over it, or like I just call it a phobia. I wasn't like necessarily fully like actually scared of death, but like I hated the idea of like passing or going and like feeling like I didn't do enough in my life, or like I don't know who is going to be there at my funeral, who's going to be there at my side. It's people I haven't met yet. So like in my head, I'm fantasizing all these different people that are there, but it's all blurs because I don't know these people yet. So it's just like faceless people at my side or at my funeral, people I don't know, maybe my kids, my wife, whoever it may be. And I don't know these people yet. I haven't met them. So it's like that was like part of that like fed into the anxiety. It was like, well, I got to meet these people one day. So, but that's why I a bit more and unintentionally I came up with like ideas to kind of cope with that, which was like I like thought of theories of like reincarnation and like what happens after you die, because like part of the reason why I was scared, it was like when you die, am I just gonna see like if I close my eyes it's just like just darkness, or like when I fall asleep I just don't wake up? Is that how it feels? So I was scared of that as well. So I was like, well, then what if it's like a fast forward in time after you pass away? And it's just like everything just restarts, kind of like the Big Bang happens again, and like everything has like a form of reincarnation. So then it's like just this giant cycle. So there's definitely I have like a ton of those ideas and theories, and we don't have to dive fully into that because I'll be here speaking for like 10 hours straight. But it was just that was the idea that I had in order to kind of cope with it, and unintentionally that's how Buddhists think, and that's why they're so at peace at all times. Like monks and stuff like that, they sacrifice a ton of different things. They can't be in relationships. They all these like the sexual wants. They can't have wants at all. It's just like they just kind of take whatever comes their way, but then they tackle the situation or whatever it may be with a different perspective of like peace. Like they're just kind of okay with it because it's like fate. It's meant to happen, but they'll get over it. So the idea of death as well. They're okay with that because they know that once they die, that they'll pass on, like maybe their soul escapes like their body, and then they'll be reincarnated again anyway. So that's why they're just okay with doing whatever it is. It's just they're at peace. So that's kind of what I had to like. I unintentionally came up with that like theory for myself, and I was like, oh, wait, that's how Buddhists think. And then I got more in touch with my Buddhist parts again.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
so you started thinking about that more recently?
Yeah. So I thought about that stuff like maybe like when I was around like 17 and on, and then like once I was like around like 20, 21, I started thinking or like getting more and back into like some Buddhist practice. I don't go to temples now like that, but it's more like just practicing the morals and the ideas of like Buddhist traditions of like dharma and like karma and stuff like that. Do good, get like you receive good back. If you do bad, you're gonna receive bad somewhere along the lines.
Has it changed the way you live at all?
Not necessarily. No, it hasn't like changed, but like I don't think I do things too differently. I just have that thought run through my mind at times whenever I do things. It's just more of like a moral practice. I'm still like far from being like a pure person, but
Enlightened.
yeah. But you know, it's life, so we're just kind of going about it however and just kind of having fun with it.
Would you ever want to be a monk?
When I was a kid, yes, I wanted to be a monk. I told my parents I wanted to be a monk, but just because I loved the garbs that they wear, it was just like, that looks cool.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Yeah, and they just seem so
Whoa.
at peace. So, because like I used to go out to Philly a lot because my parents had a store out there. When I was a kid, after like elementary school, I'd be out there with them, and sometimes monks would visit the store and just kind of like give some like peace offerings and stuff like that. And I always like just stared in fascination that I was like, they have a bald head. And they wear these orange garbs. And I've watched Dragon Ball.
Yeah,
so
I
this
know what
looks
they can do. Yeah.
this guy can Kamehameha, I bet. Like he's gonna throw like some ki blasts and like I'm just gonna oh my god. This guy has powers for
Yes.
sure. I want to be a monk.
Yeah, fuck yeah, dude. Feels different wearing those robes, man.
Yeah. So that's that was my thought when I was a kid, for sure.
That sort of peacefulness, not wanting anything. That's such a strange concept to me.
Yeah, but they're so content with their life, like without like desires. Like everyone around us nowadays, we're like, oh, I want this, I want that, I want a new car, I want a house, I want all these different things that maybe they were lacking before, or now that they have the money to achieve it or get it, they'll get it. But like monks, they sacrifice those wants and desires, and they're still super content with life.
There's something. Do you ever have the desire to live a sort of aesthetic lifestyle, very bare bones, bare essential? Like, actually, this extends me to another form of question along the same lines. I've seen a lot of people romanticize the idea of living out in the woods, the lone man who lives out in the woods, or living in the zombie apocalypse, right? Something along those lines. Do you have a fantasy along those lines of a lifestyle you'd like to live that's quite different from your current one?
So yeah, I've thought about like a very like village-like life before. Like thinking probably something like Kyoto, Japan, where it's like traditional
Did
village.
you say village? Wait, I thought Kyoto was a city.
Kind of like, yeah, but it's like they have like that look of like kind of like a village. I guess it's not Kyoto specifically, but like almost village-like, where like it's like, oh, the sons, you know, they go out to the woods during the day or something and grab firewood and that type of stuff, and then you know, just that type of traditional life. And then maybe here and there you go a little out further from the village to go to like the more city like area to maybe have like a nice dinner, or like go to get like a drink that you can't normally have, and like maybe you just have water. So like maybe you want like some more special drink.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. It's just like something more quaint, but like we're so used to like the way we're living here. It's like very modern. Everything is like dependent on like technology. So it's way more bare bone there.
Yeah.
Thinking about it.
And that's a strange contrast that some people still have. And even if they don't literally want to live it, I've seen people who would probably never give up this kind of lifestyle still watch it with fascination. Like they'll watch Alaskan frontier shows. I'm thinking of my dad specifically. And it's like I'm living vicariously through you. And it's weird to notice that despite all these wonderful advancements, air conditioning, transportation, medical advancements, phones, on and on and on, that despite all that, we still maintain a touch with a pretty strong touch of our maybe evolutionary history, what we've adapted to want: the sun gathering the wood, being out in the woods, smelling the fresh air, being in the grass. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why like part of like I at one point I want to make enough money through like getting a job to be able to travel. Like I want to be able to like retire a bit earlier to just travel and like see everything, and then like really just like bask and like be part of the culture that's there. That way you can experience different lifestyles, something that maybe feels more futuristic than what we have here, or something that feels a bit more like primitive than.
I'd love to. Kyoto is such a perfect example of that, because you could have Tokyo, not super, far off, and my understanding of that is the pinnacle of technological advancement, right? The bullet trains going several hundred miles per hour, feeling like nothing. I've heard people go to bars there, and they'll have just robots come out and dance for you. You'll hear of like holographic stars, like famous popular figures that are only holograms. People just edit them and make them up. And then to have that and then just go out in the mountains, live the old samurai-esque lifestyle.
Yeah.
That sounds fucking awesome.
It's just like, it's one, like you see what they have there, and then you're like, I want to experience that, but at the same time, I'm not sure if I could ever get used to it. But I do want to see it, for sure. It's the same thing if I were to say, like, contrast with, like, Kyoto, where it's just like, I don't know if I could fully live that life just because I'm so accustomed to what I have now, but I definitely would want to see, like, if I really like it or not, or, like, to just at least fathom the idea if, like, maybe I could like live that life.
And it's so cool to notice that different parts of you activate when you go to very different environments. Literally, I heard there's a field, and my God, I know so little about this, but the little that I did hear is extremely fascinating in epigenetics, that different genes, different parts of your DNA will start to activate in different environments. So you can really become an extremely different person if you go from living in, let's say, suburbs here to going out to live in Tokyo. And it just makes me wonder, how many different parts of myself don't I know of?
Right.
And like, how cool would it be to get to know them?
Yeah, exactly. Like you kind of like morph into a different person, and then like you kind of realize it for yourself, I would assume, as well. And you're like, wait a minute, I'm a little different here. So like, because you just kind of adapt to a different lifestyle, so you kind of do become like partially a different person, if not like, yeah, I wouldn't say you would completely become a different person, but like, yeah, I would say like it definitely activates a different part of you. There's like, I kind of need to adapt to like how this is. So it brings this part of me out.
Makes me wonder how, what are the extremes within myself? Like, how different could I become? And that makes me think of, you ever watch Avatar: The Last Airbender?
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, of course. If you haven't, you should, God damn it. But the fact that for the Avatar to become a fully formed person, in a sense, he has to go experience all the other elements and kind of become a master of these very different walks of life.
Yeah.
And that after doing that, he then kind of becomes a master of himself, a master of thriving. And that even Iroh, when he was teaching Zuko, someone who's not the Avatar, he's like, even to become better at firebending, to become at least adept to get to know the world of water, of wind, of earth. And it makes me wonder, how true is that